Buffalo Bills at the Houston Texans Sunday at 1. You've got the Texans favored by no. Are we reading this right? The screen says Buffalo minus 1.5.
I think. Ooh.
The document says, oh yeah, this is right.
It is Buffalo by.
Did that just change?
Buffalo or at?
Buffalo by 1.5 at Houston Sunday at 1. Bills just had a rough game against the Ravens last week, and Houston now 3-1, 2 3-1 teams, and two of the teams that are supposed to be the top challengers for the defending champion Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah. I think the line has moved, but it's one of those ones where moving between the threes is not a huge, like it's less of a move than you think it is, because obviously a field goal is 3 points, right? So inside that margin is a smaller move than crossing that threshold. The big thing here to me, the Texans theoretically are getting Joe Mixon back. Obviously, they've been missing him for a couple of weeks. We saw early in the season.
Is that for sure? There weren't
not for sure, but I think they are. Missing him early in the season, like we saw what he could do to that offense. Clearly, Bobby Slowick likes having a running back that can lift the team the way Joe Mixon can. They want to rely on a bell cow type of back to make everything function. And then he was missing, right? And it's a different offense without that. We just saw Buffalo get absolutely run over by Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. Can Joe Mixon bring something of that run game back to this team? And can Buffalo stop it if that happens? And then the other thing is, and the line is saying this as well, the Bills got annihilated by the Ravens, but they're a much better team than that.
Oh, for sure. I mean, so I think we're at the point here. First off, it's a huge game for Houston, right? They're supposed to be, with all of their as good as they were last year, all of the offseason additions, year 2 of DeMeco Ryans and Bobby Slowick and C.J. Stroud, AFC Championship contenders, right? This is a prove-it game for them. Anytime Houston would go up against a Kansas City, which they will later in the season, or if they go up against a Baltimore. Last year, I thought they beat Cincinnati in Cincinnati when the Bengals were hot. I thought that was a really good prove-it game for Houston. But this is one of those prove-it type of games. And I think when you get to that level, because I think these are two of the best teams in the NFL, this becomes a matchup type of thing. I think the same way Cincinnati, when they're at their best, seems to match up really well against Buffalo and against Kansas City. I think, did the Ravens, do they just match up against Buffalo extremely well? And that's why that game happened the way it did. What happens in the matchup here? Is there, because Buffalo could come out and, crush Houston, and all of a sudden it just becomes a matchup thing. But maybe Houston matches up better with Kansas City. So I think that's kind of what I'm looking at. It's just how this matchup plays out. I do know, I think the defensive aggressiveness around the league, the way teams are blitzing and creating havoc up front, has been one of the stories of the season. And Houston's been really good at that. 6th best EPA per play allowed when blitzing. Buffalo's been the best passing attack against the blitz so far this year. So how did they handle Josh Allen, right? It used to be sit back and zone, make him pick you apart. He's had a lot of answers over the last couple of years. Buffalo's built to do that. I think you want to still be aggressive against the Bills, but they've got good yak-heavy answers there too. Khalil Shakir banged up as well. Not sure exactly what happens with him.
I think generally the Buffalo Bills have got pretty good track record against Shanahan or Shanahan adjacent offenses. Miami, obviously they face twice a year within the division. They haven't, I don't think, faced the 49ers in a long time. And then they faced Green Bay and done reasonably well there as well. So Shanahan adjacent. This is, Bobby Slowick's version of the Shanahan offense. So interesting test, but not one that they've shown a vulnerability to.
The other number I just want to highlight here, Josh Allen has 0 interceptions.
Yep.
Now, because game flow is a big factor in a lot of these things, like Geno Smith the other day ended up with, I think, 4 turnover-worthy plays. 3 of them came within the last 2 minutes because they're down 2 scores. Allen forced a couple passes late the other day, but he's got 6 turnover-worthy plays now. All of a sudden, Josh Allen's turnover-worthy play count looks exactly like previous seasons, even though I can't remember if one of his fumbles, if they lost it or not. I don't know if he has 0 or 1 actual turnovers, but I know he's got 0 picks. So it's one of those, I think the narrative is true, like he is taking better care of the ball, but when he's Because when he's made those turnover-worthy plays, it's like, we're just down, 2 and 3 scores against Baltimore, and they, forced a couple.
Josh Allen has the same turnover-worthy play rate as Will Levis.
Oh, Jesus, you had to do it. There's
Levis
degrees. There's degrees, right? Josh
Levis.
Allen threw a laser beam through Nate Wiggins' crotch the other day by accident. He just missed a throw, whereas we've described in detail the level of
Will Levis has
crazy that Will Levis's
most
turnover-worthy plays have been.
Comical turnover-worthy plays of the entire season, and Josh Allen has yet to throw an interception, and yet they have identical turnover.
Deceptive captioning, Sam. No, this is not allowed. You can't do that. Deceptive captioning. Josh Allen and Will Levis, same guy. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not.
No, not at all. Derek Stingley still playing really well for Houston. So avoid the way Buffalo's constructed. I think avoiding him is doable, right? They're constructed to avoid the good corner on the outside.
Right.
And at the other piece, we talked about Trevor Lawrence missing a lot of opportunities last week, or at least 2 huge opportunities for long touchdowns against Brian Thomas Jr. And Christian Kirk. Those are away from Derek Stingley, right? So not to overrate just 2 plays from the previous week, but there have been some opportunities against this Houston defense.
Yep.
Was that Richardson earlier in the year too? My memory's not as good.
What?
Forget it. Go ahead. Carry on. Anyway, anything else in this matchup? It's a 1:00 game. Feels like it's a primetime type of game.
Yeah.
It's a Sunday Night Football type of matchup in the 1:00 window here.
Yeah, I mean, we still expect these to be 2 of the better teams in the NFL this year, so it is a fun matchup. It's one that you don't see all the time. So, yeah, I'm excited for this game.
I think, again, narrative-wise, obviously this has playoff implications. It has seeding implications. Narrative-wise, is Houston really a contender? They're 3-1. The one loss to the powerhouse Vikings, right? You can't fault them for that. Undefeated Vikings. But can Houston be one of the top players in the AFC? I think that's what we're learning here Sunday at 1.
Yeah, I mean, you almost sort of give them a break for the Vikings game, not just because the Vikings look to be quite good, but because that Flores versus Shanahan system matchup seems to just favor the Vikings at this point. Last week, even though they won it, almost damaged their standing in your eyes. Like, that should have been a game. Like, Jacksonville looked terrible right now. So that should have been a game that they walked away with, and they struggled. They got over the line, but I don't think they come out of that game with, like, enhanced credit versus when they went into it. But now you get another test against a good team, and then from Buffalo's point of view, it's you just got shellacked and embarrassed on prime time, against another good team. Can you bounce back?
All right, man. Buffalo by 1.5 here in Houston. Over-under's 47.5. I think Vegas expecting a pretty good game here. Where are you going with this one?
Yeah, so in the sleeper app, we said those lines lock earlier in the week. They locked on Tuesday, and at that point, it was Houston favored by 1.5. Now, when we're doing this show, it's gone all the way back to Buffalo by 1.5. So it's moved essentially 3 points in that direction.
Is that enough? Yeah.
As we said, that's not a big movement, right? I took Buffalo when it was Houston favored by 1.5. I think I'm still taking them, even though they're now favored by 1.5.
At some point, I just want the consistency between what's in our document and what's in Sleeper.
Yeah, well, that's tough to do.
Which is tough to do.
I mean, essentially, I'm expecting Buffalo to win this game outright, and if they do it by anything other than a point,
then you got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll also take the Bills here, though tempted to go the other way with Houston. Harry's also going to take the Bills to cover the 1.5 here in Houston. Looking forward to this one, Sam.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end of our video.
For more great content, click here to subscribe and here to watch another video. We'll see you again soon.